It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith. Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So to show you what kind of grip Donald Trump has on the Republican Party, had a huge win in Wisconsin on Tuesday. This Supreme Court seat, I mean, it was like a 10-point blowout win. And in a state like Wisconsin where it's right down the middle, a 10-point win is enormous. That's a whipping. If you lost by 10 points in an election in Wisconsin, you took a beating. You should probably go into your hole and never be seen again. But this former Supreme Court Justice, Dan Kelly, he wasn't going to take it and did not concede, refuses to concede. And you go, you lost. When did we become this country of, I'm not going to concede? No, you lost. Congratulate the other person. Move on to do it again down the road. Just crazy. But, this is what happens when the guy at the very top is a whiner and a complainer. This is what you get. I'm here to share some thoughts on what happened in Wisconsin, and, we'll find out what's going on around the country. I've asked Carolyn Fiddler to come talk with us. She's the political editorial director at Courier Newsroom. CourierNewsroom.com is the website. Carolyn, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having me. And wow, yeah, Dan Kelly, I think he was one of those people who was horribly scarred as a child by that thing at the end of a Little League game where you have to high five the winning team and when you lost. Clearly that made him very bitter, and he's taking it out on Wisconsin or something. No,
I mean, the thing is, and that's an excellent way of putting it. Because, when I was a kid, you went through and you shook hands at the end, and, you'd come back and if you did something wrong, the coach would rail on you because the last thing you wanted to be is a poor sport or a sore loser or any of those things. Now the country is run in many parts, and fortunately not in this part, by a bunch of losers in poor sports.
Yeah, I mean, even before Janet won, Wisconsin Republicans were talking about impeaching her just for being seated, and which doesn't even happen until August. They're going to get up to all kinds of shenanigans before then. Mark my words.
No, and that's the scary part, because the news that I keep hearing is what a huge win this was, and it was great. They flipped this Supreme Court, but there's that Senate seat that has given the Senate a supermajority in Wisconsin. There's a lot of shenanigans that can happen there.
Oh, yeah, big time. And Wisconsin Republicans have shown us time and time again over the last, 13 years that they are not afraid to exercise their power in the most diabolical of ways.
I know. I was there in 2011. We spent 2 weeks sleeping on the floor there as Scott Walker was pulling his stunts. And look, I remember at the time you had all those people there who were going, look, you didn't run on this. This agenda was never put before us to vote on. And it's interesting to see where they've gone. So I guess the question I had, and I asked David Pepper this yesterday, does this Supreme Court seat give us hope that maybe some of the stuff that started in 2011 and just accelerated, do we see it turning back from that and making, Wisconsin, I don't know, the forward state again?
I think so, but it's going to happen more slowly than anyone would care for it to. That's just the way the judicial system works, whether it's 4-3 conservative majority or 4-3 progressive majority. So I think that this court is in a position to undo a lot of harms, but I think it is going to take time. Barring retirements, there's going to be a while before the balance of the court is really in play again. But again, someone could retire and it could be in play again tomorrow. Who knows?
Or Republicans could go and do what they've said they're going to do and yes, rip one of them off the court. But I then understand that, the governor would have the right to appoint someone, right? So
which is the reason why they might not do it, because it would look bad and not really accomplish much.
Yeah. Now, as I also understand the gerrymandered state that it is, there are some new maps being possible. Thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as there's one group that as soon as Janet gets seated in August, they're going to file to have the redistricting case either file a new lawsuit or have it reconsidered or something. I'm not really clear on their specific strategy, but it would be nice to get those maps in front of a less conservative court for sure.
Now, this has, as I'm told from people on the ground in Wisconsin, this was really all about the abortion issue.
Oh yeah.
So Republicans, the dog caught the car, chewed through the bumper and into the back seat, and it's cost them big. I mean, a 10-point win is huge.
Yeah, like when's the last time someone won by that kind of margin outside of a gerrymandered legislative district in Wisconsin? I can't tell you.
Yeah, I can't either.
This was a statewide election, and a Democrat, a progressive who was nominated by Democrats, just romped. It was, I mean, obviously I'm really glad she won, but I was not expecting this size of a win. And honestly, the GOP campaign felt really disjointed. I think Kelly felt like he had a hard row to hoe from go.
Yeah.
But whatever.
We will see.
He lost twice. He's a 2-time loser. I would feel bad about laughing at him, but he is also being a sore loser. So I think I get absolved of feeling bad about laughing.
I don't know. I think I got to do it. My coach would have smacked me upside the back of the head. But then again, I played for coaches that they didn't take any guff. You didn't spike the football. No. You didn't taunt anyone. I raised my fist one time. My dad was a high school
football coach. Like I grew up with these rules, these standards, these codes of conduct. Don't be a jerk. It's real basic.
How hard is that?
Apparently increasingly difficult for certain segments of the population.
Yeah. Let's move over to Michigan, because Michigan is my bright spot. They repealed the no rights at work stuff. They put prevailing wage back into law. And now you've got Whitmer, who's repealed this 1931 abortion ban. They're doing what they campaigned on, and they're doing it quickly. Kind of, as I've been telling other states, this is how you do it. There's that song. This is how you do it. This is how you do it.
Montel Jordan, I believe.
Okay.
It's a banger from a really long time ago.
Well, this is how you do it. I mean, it comes up, it gets passed, it gets signed. Next. I think it's a good thing.
I hope that other Democrats who flip chambers in the years to come will use this as an example. I think that when Democrats flipped the legislature in Virginia just a few years back, I think that they were way too shy about getting things done. And I think it bit them in the butt a couple of years later.
No, and this is what I said when Virginia flipped. I'm going, this is what you should be doing. Do all of these things. Repeal the no rights at work stuff. Do this stuff. Do something. People want you to use the power that they gave you. And Democrats are always too timid.
I mean, another thing that the Michigan Democrats clearly have done is learn from the Republicans. Like when Republicans took over all these state legislatures after the 2010 elections, they immediately started ramming through all these measures to further marginalized groups and to keep themselves in power. And Democrats are historically a lot more timid when they win power, and Democrats need to stop. Michigan got the message, and I'm really happy about it.
I'm right there with you. Let's go over to Kansas. A little earlier, we talked about Kansas's one of the most fairly radical bathroom bill. Does Kansas is Kansas a utopia where all the roads are paved, the schools are well funded, all kids are fed, there are no homeless? Is this the perfect state that they can spend this kind of time going after really just a handful of people? I mean, is this really that important?
I mean, when you are afraid of everything in one who doesn't reflect the world you want to see back at you, I guess it is. I don't understand how these people are willing to dedicate so much time and energy to just hate and bullying a group of people who never wronged them, and yet here we are.
No, it comes back to it. I've been saying this for a while. The more that they can divide us on these kind of issues that shouldn't matter to anybody, does not matter to me one bit. Look, if I've had people I've known who are transgender say, look, throughout your life, I guarantee there was someone in the bathroom with you who was transgender, and you didn't know it. And you know what? I didn't know it, and I didn't care.
Give a dang.
Because you know where my eyes go in the bathroom? I look down, and then I look right at the wall. I don't care about anything else.
Rule.
That's the rule. and I don't know what these people are doing in the bathrooms. What are these people doing? I think what it is, because they talk about all these drag shows that are corrupting our children, and yet you've got all these Republicans who are being indicted for being actual pedophiles and actual groomers. I think that just that their minds are in that place, and their minds are so perverted that they can't help but think what they would do in those situations.
That's a scary but salient point. The thing that gets me is that these are just this one little bubble of nasty human beings where most Americans are watching RuPaul's Drag Race. Drag is not controversial. And being transgender has not been this controversial ever. It shouldn't be. People have a right to just exist, and I don't understand why that is just so difficult.
No, I mean, this isn't hard.
Sorry, not all humans, just these Republican humans.
In a country that prides itself on life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, all people created equally. I mean,
unless you scare me, in which case, go away.
But it's just my mind goes into this weird place. Now, look, I may think you're a freak show, but God bless you, do your thing. Let your freak flag fly. I don't care. As long as it doesn't affect me, don't care. When did we stop being that country?
I miss the small town I grew up in, where everyone was, pretty decent at minding their own business. It was a small town, so everyone was still in everyone's business. But because of that, privacy and minding one's own business was a virtue.
Yeah. No, my grandfather's motto was, "Don't worry about me, worry about yourself."
Yes,
I used to say it all the time. And maybe we should, I don't know, think that way again. Just a thought.
I think I'm a little worried about going back to ways of thought, since we're already kind of doing that in the worst possible ways. I see where you're coming from. You're not wrong, but the general tenor of going back and looking back fondly at times past it's getting really twisted into these horrible, horrible legislative shapes right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. How about returning to sane ideas? we won't make it time sensitive. We'll make it idea sensitive. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're with Carolyn Fiddler. She's the political editorial director over at Courier Newsroom, couriernewsroom.com, the website. Check that out. They do incredible stuff all across the Midwest, maybe a state that you live in. Check the website, couriernewsroom.com. Want to get your thoughts on what's going on in North Carolina?
Ooh, yes. Bad things are about to go down in North Carolina because one Democrat decided that she was mad about something, and she up and switched parties, giving Republicans supermajorities in both chambers of the legislature. They had it in just one before. And now Cooper can't get much done. He can't effectively veto anything unless Republicans happen to be divided on some issue, which North Carolina, they are pretty good at sticking together down there. They're a group of Republicans, much like Wisconsin.
Yep.
They're really good at exercising their power. And now, last time Republicans had this kind of control, these veto-proof majorities with a Democratic governor, at least the state Supreme Court wasn't Republican controlled. That is no longer the case. There is nothing to hold these cats back in North Carolina anymore. We're about to see some very, very bad things come out of there.
Let the fun and entertainment begin, I guess, because there's a part of me that goes, maybe as a working class, we have to suffer. Because people have asked me, when do we become that generation like my grandparents' generation? And again, there are all those problems, but they did come together to fight for certain things. They did build the social safety net. They did, fight for better wages, hours, conditions in the workplace. They did do some very progressive things. And I said, I think it's only after we have the next recession/depression where people they really need to start depending on each other again. And I fear that's what it's going to take, some mass suffering.
That's upsetting. But I worry that you're not wrong. So as I pointed out, that today is First Contact Day, according to the movie Star Trek First Contact. 40 years from today, we meet the Vulcans. But as someone reminded me, in the interim, we have to go through World War III. If we're sticking with Star Trek.
I'm not. I haven't seen it. So I'm not a Trekkie. Maybe someday. Any good news out there? I know you guys spend a lot of time in states across. Anything positive? I got to leave with something positive from our friends at Courier Newsroom. Anything that makes you go, this is good news. Something, please.
Well, we already talked about Michigan. So,
No, Michigan's great.
yeah. Tomorrow is the biggest filing deadline in Virginia for candidates running for office this year. And this year, Democrats have a chance to flip back the state House of Delegates to a Democratic majority and hopefully keep the state Senate. So it is not, perfect news, but it is news with hope. It is a place where people can take action this very year to help support things like keeping abortion legal in Virginia, because they still have a Republican governor, sort of, even though he's running for president. Don't get me started on that guy. But having Democrats in charge of at least one chamber, ideally two, will be a very good thing for Virginians. And that is all happening this very November.
Outstanding. CourierNewsroom.com, the website. Carolyn Fiddler, appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Make sure you check out the website, CourierNewsroom.com. Carolyn is the political editorial director there at Courier. Going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. Listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
Hey, this is Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys, and you're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
I'm JD Schulten with Courier News, and I'm here to tell you you're probably getting screwed. What is one of the most costly crimes in America? So much so that from 2017 to 2020, $3 billion was recovered by it, but it happens much, much, much more. That's right, it's wage theft. Wage theft occurs anytime an employer does not pay the employee everything the employee is owed by law. Nationally, employees are underpaid by as much as $50 billion each year due to wage theft. No group is immune from this, but low-wage workers are particularly vulnerable. Wage theft can take as much as 10% of a low-wage worker's annual earnings. One reason wage theft is so common is because many employees aren't aware what constitutes wage theft. Here are some signs you might be a victim of wage theft. Your paycheck is repeatedly incorrect even after you've asked about it. You don't get to take a meal break, or you have to work tasks even though you're clocked out. You're an hourly worker who completes overtime hours but doesn't get overtime pay. Your boss tells you to work off the clock. In 2021, food service and construction workers were the most affected by wage theft, followed by workers in retail, agriculture, both farm workers and meat packers, and healthcare, especially nurses. Wage theft often goes unreported because employees fear repercussions from their employers for filing complaints. However, it's actually illegal for the employers to retaliate against their employees for exercising their rights as workers. As one expert says, we don't do labor training in our schools. So what should you do if you think wage theft is happening to you? First, talk to your employer. Maybe it's an honest mistake, but if things continue to happen, file a complaint with the Department of Labor. You can call them at 1-866-4-US-WAGE. That's 1-866-487-9243. Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and all calls are confidential.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So as the Twitter turns, evidently the Twitter bird is gone. It's now the Doji dog or something. Which, interestingly enough, evidently, since Elon Musk made the, I guess it's the Dogecoin dog, the emblem on the Twitter site, evidently their stock prices have jumped, I guess 30%. So I guess doggy on Twitter is good for cryptocurrency. You figure it out. I'm not going to. But what Musk has done to Twitter, very interesting. And I remember, the whole reason he took over is free speech. Everyone was going to have free speech, except, we're going to make you pay to get the little coveted blue check mark so that your message can be heard. And we'll write our algorithm so that the people who pay get more speech. Yeah, it's kind of like the Supreme Court. Yeah, I guess American. But here's the interesting thing. Right away, they took away the New York Times' check mark. They haven't really taken many other people's away, but the New York Times, because he said that's propaganda, took that away. They got 55 million followers. Today, they added a warning to NPR's Twitter page. Now, understand, this is big stuff. They've added this state-affiliated media label. This is what they put on Russia's RT. This is what they put on the Chinese news stuff. They are now putting NPR in the world of dictator media. Think of what that's saying to the right wing. Now, again, Elon's, he's right down the middle, he says, yet everything he does is extremely far right. But this is kind of a big deal. Because again, remember, it was supposed to be all about free speech. It was supposed to be about, letting the people decide. Now, understand, Republicans have wanted to destroy public radio for as long as I can remember. They've been trying to defund it for a while. In fact, I think, middle of March, they voted I think it was 228 to 192 to ban local public radio. Yeah. Welcome to America, I guess. And the part that I find scary is when I put something out on Twitter now, it gets a lot of the same responses. And this is my problem with social media as a whole. And the organizing that the right, and to be honest, the left does some of this too, not as well and not as well funded, but the right is masterful at this. They will attack you. 20, 30, 50, comments, attacking you with and then gone. And it's this gang kind of mentality of coordinated messaging. And it's all negative. It's all it's all Johnny and a bunch of numbers. This is, again, now remember, Musk is saying we're making this free speech. We're making this the public square. We're making this where everyone has their First Amendment rights. And yet they're silencing a large number of people. They're deciding that the New York Times is propaganda and NPR is state-run media. And I argue using it for profit, because capitalists are going to capital. They are going to capitalist. I just find it interesting that no one's really picking up on it. Now, I've been quoted in a couple of Bloomberg articles here recently on this. And I said, look, I've had a blue check mark for years, and how it used to be is if someone had a blue check, you knew who they were. And they had to follow a certain set of rules, and they were somewhat trusted. Especially when you were looking at big news organizations and big influencers, they took it seriously. What it's turned into now, and as the one article quoted me as saying, the blue check mark is now the red hat. It's now the red MAGA hat on Twitter. If you've now got the blue check mark, it's because you're probably paying the money to Musk. And a number of people have said, yeah, I'm broke, I can't afford it, but I'm going to own the libs. I'm going to support Musk because we're going to own those Democrats. We're going to show them. And I just find it interesting that this is the business model now. Playing to that kind of hatred that the right has capitalized on. It's the reason you see companies like Chick-fil-A taking the positions that they take. They know that if they put themselves out in a certain way, they're going to attract a certain crowd. It's the reason that Anheuser-Busch put out a six-pack with Dylan Mulvaney's face on it, because they're betting that there are more people out there who are not offended by trans people who buy their products because of it. This is the world that we've now gotten into. And Twitter's playing this game. I fear that it all goes bust at some point soon when people realize that they're spending money on something that is worthless. Because news organizations aren't going to be quoted. And then, in fact, we've been talking about here on the show of doing a blue check segment. Today in blue check world, and finding that person who's paying the $8-10, who's got 6 followers, who's saying dumb stuff. This is what's verified. This is what the Musks of the world want. And really all it's about, again, is keeping us pitted against each other, because we know that people on the internet are the worst versions of themselves. We know this is all about divide and conquer. And why? So they can rob us blind. And they're doing a heck of a job at that. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, there's something going on in Tennessee that really, really frightening. And everyone should be concerned, right, left, center, because, hey, one side does it, it could come around to the other. We'll take a quick break. Right back.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new CHIPS bill that got passed will bring jobs back home and has already resulted in big announcements of major new factories opening. The American Recovery Package has allowed cities and counties to hire new police officers and firefighters and start rebuilding their communities again. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, President of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.